You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your host, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Hey, Vero Nation. Thanks for joining us inside the press box. I'm Paul Tipton, joined by Gary Paris as Vero Beach gets another win last Friday night over Martin County, 28-3. They improved to 7-1 overall. More importantly, 3-0 in the district. Sets up for a big-time showdown with Treasure Coast. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But, Gary, no, you weren't there. You were on assignment with UCF out there in Oklahoma. I know it didn't go the way you'd hoped it would go, but for Vero Beach, things did kind of go the way they had hoped.
It was a great weekend. Listening to you and Matt do the game, that was exciting for me on Friday night. I got a chance to listen to the most of the game, and I thought that Vero defense sounded just awesome. I mean, they had a little bend, but they didn't break, and they were able to come up with some big plays. I thought Coach Jay called a great game, had open receivers. I remember Matt talking about one where Hillsman was wide open in the first quarter, and he twisted around and tried to make the catch where he could maybe, if he'd caught it over his shoulder, it would have been a touchdown. And those are things that you learn from. He's only a sophomore.
Oh, yeah.
He's only a sophomore. So you say to yourself, okay, he's our leading receiver, and he's catching the ball, but he has one miscue there. But you got to love his effort, and you love the kid itself. And I just thought it was a big win. I think that Coach Jay may disagree with me on this, but I think he won't. I think he left 2 or 3 touchdowns out there on the field in that game. I thought that Vero I never felt Vero was in trouble listening to you guys, that they had the ability to score. They had the defense that was going to shut them down.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big district game. Mm-hmm. It was homecoming weekend. And anytime you can win on homecoming weekend and in high school ball, with all the activities going on through the week, trying to get your players to concentrate, I thought the coaching staff did an outstanding job of getting the kids focused for that game.
Agreed. I totally agree. And, I was super, super impressed with our defense. I know they have been stellar all year long, but how about this? 4 interceptions on the night against Martin County.
Xbox, 2 of them.
Had 2 of them. You had Alford, who had 1, and then, R.J. Jones got another. And I got to tell you, there was a little bit of debate. In fact, we got so caught up, in everything Matt and I did that, we kind of talked about near the end of the game about what would be the play of the game. We actually didn't even figure that out yet, honestly, Gary, because there were so many great plays that happened for Vero Beach, especially on the defensive side. I mean, you think about that first interception, the receiver for Martin County had it in his hands. Tutu Griffin comes in there, bats that ball right out of his hands, straight up in the air. Then there's TJ Alford and says, "Oh, thanks." Grabs it, makes it about a 20, 25-yard return on it, sets up Vero Beach for a score. And then later on, R.J. Jones on the other side of the field from us makes this incredible take. I mean, literally the receiver had it in his hands, and he just ripped it right out of his hands.
I heard Matt and you talk about it, that he just ripped it out.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, how do you decide between just those two? Which would be the better play of the game? I mean, man, it was just phenomenal.
Isn't it great to have R.J. Jones back? I mean, didn't think we were going to have him.
Right.
Thought he was done for the year, just a junior, and he's out there making play after play. E.J. White on the other side, making play after play over there defending. I mean, right now our defense looks the best according to what I saw the week before in the games that I've been able to make. But the one when I love listening to you guys, because you and Matt are very good together too, and I enjoy how you described it. Those 2 interceptions were unbelievable. I mean, the way you described it, I went, well, he just took it out of his hands. That's what he did. He took it right out of his hands.
And, initially for Matt and I, because it was the opposite side of the field from us, we couldn't hardly tell what had happened. We knew there was an interception. We just didn't know the magnitude of what had just happened till we were able to watch the replay of it through our YouTube channel. We saw the replay and it was like, oh my goodness, look at that. I mean, he literally just like slammed right up in there, just ripped it right out of his hands.
I mean, when I go back and you look at the film, you and I were looking at the film earlier, some of the plays. And, I mean, you love our quarterback.
Yeah.
And you love the way he plays the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain plays he's going to miss because in his mind, he may think this is the coverage I'm seeing. I should not have to, he's reading the coverage. And he missed a wide open. You and I were looking at the film.
Yeah.
Missed a wide open Taylor. I mean, he was wide open.
He was.
They blew the coverage. And you can't, he already committed to throw that post down the middle. But if he'd have just looked to his left, which I thought he looked the guy off, he was trying to look him off over there. And when he looked him off, hey, there he is, wide open.
Yeah.
But that's you got to understand the competitiveness. The guy is such a great quarterback. He did that and then thought he was going to get the ball in to Roberts in the post on the post.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
And he'd be the first to tell you. I mean, I'm sure Tyler was not happy with his overall performance in that game. And again, these are the kind of things you almost feel bad of nitpicking about him. But as we continue to progress through this season, and more importantly, you get to the playoffs where you're playing the elite teams. These are the things that you can't do. You got to avoid these mistakes.
You got to straighten them out now.
Yeah.
You got to, if those things are things you pick up.
Yep.
Because Martin County's a pretty good football team. They came in 4-2 and off a big win last year against us at their facility, and we were undefeated at that time. But it's a different team. It's a different attitude, different approach.
Yeah.
This is a good football team. It's just got to come together. Defensively, I thought they played as good as you could play out there at times. Out there, offensively, there's so much more that Lenny would.
And it's not all on Tyler either.
No.
There were two big drops in the start of that game. One by Hillsman, one by Roberts. That definitely the Roberts drop would have been a touchdown. He was pretty much by himself, and that would have been a touchdown, a walk in. Hillsman. It could have been a touchdown. He just he got his body turned in a weird position, Gary, and he was trying to make the catch. I mean, I give him an A for effort, but the way he got his body turned around, it was going to be just a big catch. It could have been a touchdown if you catch it the right way.
He probably looks back over his shoulder and sees the ball, and instead of doing this or like this, catching the ball with his hands,
looking over your shoulder,
his shoulder, Instead, he twisted his body around and went back and made it. And you lose your footing that way too, and you lose your balance on trying to catch that ball.
Oh,
but those are plays that you talk about then you see a little screen pass you tried to get to Hillsman. You and I were looking at the game film, and the line doesn't block just doesn't get a quick hold. I mean, no, I say a stop rather, not a hold, but a stop.
It's difference between 1 second.
1 second.
1 second.
1 second, because Hillsman's open. You got your lineman going down there. He's behind the line, and you got one guy he doesn't even slow him down. He just runs out there, and that's the guy that puts the pressure and makes the ball fall short on a screen pass that Hillsman probably takes in.
Agreed.
With his athleticism.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And but we're picking. Now we're picking because you know why? We scored 28. We feel we were a much better team than that. We feel like we left 2 or 3 touchdowns out there on the field. And so it was
honestly, Gary, I mean, being at the game, this is how it felt. Okay, at halftime you're up 21-3 and you feel like things are really kind of clicking. Then you get in that third quarter and we start with the ball. We go 3 and out. And you're thinking, okay, no big deal. It's homecoming, right? There was a lot of festivities going on. All right, maybe it's just. But then, like Martin County has a long drive. I think it was about a 10-play drive, and we end up forcing them to punt. Then we come back with about 11, 12-play drive that we end up turning it over on downs. And of course, that ball because of, I think it was on their punt, they got us inside the 5, and then we were actually, I think, off of a penalty, was a half the distance to the goal. So we're like around the 2, starting that drive. And it literally took a bomb from Aronson to our receiver to get to midfield on a 3rd down and forever play. And then you're thinking, all right, we're back on track, right? But no, then we kind of stall again, penalties, those kind of little mistakes and those kind of things. So all that to say, all of the 3rd quarter and most of the 4th quarter, we were just trading body shots between us and Martin County. And you're just kind of like, man, we're not putting this game fully away.
No, give credit to Coach Harris of Martin County. They had a good game plan. They were aggressive at times too, and they just couldn't put anything together because our defense wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, true.
And that's hats off to Bill Mata and his crew over there. They did a great job, and offensively, we had enough plays in our playbook to go out and win that game.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of short porches ourselves, except for that we had opportunities on. It wasn't a statful day for the Indians.
Good way to say it.
Because you look at, we didn't have 100 yards rushing, we didn't have 200 yards passing, and but we scored 28 points. And we had opportunities to score others, and that's all part of the game. You gotta think that Martin County had something to do with that too on the other side.
100% agree. 100% agree. And we knew that going into this game. We knew, Martin County, the last few teams that we've played, the level of competition wasn't as high as you would like to see it. You knew Martin County was going to bring a little more competitive vibe to the game, and they did. But in the end, it was just too much dominance, particularly of Vero's defense, that really sealed the deal there. And, of course, what an exclamation point near the end of the game with Elijah Anderson getting the 72-yard pick 6. I mean, that totally revitalized the whole stadium and the vibe in there when he got that interception and returned it for a touchdown. It was great.
That just shows you that we're up 21-3 at halftime, and our other touchdown came in the 4th quarter.
Yeah,
and it shows
what I'm
second
saying,
half.
It just felt like trading body shots.
Yeah, it was good. That's a good analogy of what happened out there. You all were just trading, but the opportunities were there for us. We missed them. We missed them. We missed those opportunities.
Yep.
And those are things, as a coach, you say, okay, we got a lot of work to do still. We still got a lot of work to do. And, and Lenny Jankowski, you and I have gotten to know him very well. He is a student of the game. And he went out Monday probably, knowing him, and they'd worked on all the plays that went wrong. And then for about a half, then they start thinking about Treasure Coast.
Yeah.
But you got to put that one game behind you now. But you got to repair the misplays, or what I call damage control. Is what you're doing is that things that hurt you a little bit, you got to figure out how you can get those in. And also, you got a tough opponent this week. You know that. We all know that. And you got to get ready. But you've got to put that game behind us now. And it is. We won 28-3. We're 7-1, and we're getting ready for the biggest showdown of this season this year, this week on the road, which is a tough place to play in. At South County. It's hard to broadcast that game because the loudspeaker's right above us, and
well, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be back in time because we kick off at 12. And
interesting.
Yeah, we play West Virginia on Saturday.
Okay.
And this game's on Saturday at 7. And Mark Daniels, my play-by-play guy, and he and I were talking on the plane back, and he said, hey, I might get you out of there faster than you. We'll try to get you out fast so you can get down there. So we'll see.
I appreciate that, Mark.
Yeah,
I appreciate you there.
I want to be there for it. I don't want to miss it.
Yeah,
I want to ruin your call at the end of a game again, like I did last year. Was so excited when Jesse Lewis made that field goal. It goes through.
If that is for a win, I will let you ruin it every single time.
I jumped the call, folks. We're talking about that's usually your play-by-play guy's thrill is to announce it, and I was kind of like holding my breath, like, come on, get it through, get it through, get it through. And it didn't like it was going to make it. And it just cleared the bar, and I got excited. Now, again, I laugh about that. We have fun with that, but we'll take it again.
Absolutely. Absolutely will.
But I promise you I will not do that this year.
Don't make promises you can't keep. Hey, Treasure Coast, 6-2 overall. They're 3-0 in the district. And as Gary said, playing down there is tough. They are 4-0 this year at home. So their only 2 losses have been on the road this year.
To the best teams in the state of Florida.
St. Thomas Aquinas and Cocoa.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've played some tough competition.
We
they
have
beat
one
Seminole.
We have one mutual opponent, Seminole.
Well, we have actually more than that.
Well, I meant one of the outside district opponents.
Yeah.
Was they
Seminole.
put Seminole, and they beat Seminole
14-9. And first of all, I give them all the credit for beating Seminole because that's a talented team. We do know a couple of things about that particular game. They had 4 starters that played against Vero Beach were not in that game. They missed like the first 4 games or something like that. So, those can be difference makers. Secondarily, the weather that night that Treasure Coast played Sanford Seminole was one of those rainy kind of nights. And, they play on an actual, grass field. Got soggy and whatnot. That always plays into Treasure Coast advantage because they're very much a run-oriented team.
It's called Smash Mouth Football.
Yeah.
101. It is the way they do it better than anybody I know around, except maybe Apopka. Apopka runs the same kind of Smash Mouth Football. I think that's what they're still doing up there.
Yeah, they do, and it's that single wing that it's from an announcer standpoint, it's hard to call a game because you're trying to figure out, just like the defense, you're trying to figure out where's that ball. And Treasure Coast likes to wear their dark jerseys with the numbers that are like super dark as well. So it's try to figure all that out. But most important thing is, let's make sure our defense can figure out where the ball is and stop it. That's the most important thing. Whether the announcer gets it right or not is irrelevant. But it's gonna be a tough environment for sure down there. It's always a tough game. I mean, look, Gary, the last 5 years or so, this game has been down to the wire. I mean, there's been overtime. There's been last-minute field goals, last-minute scores, 2-point conversion tries, all these different things that have factored into this ball game and who wins and who loses.
I think that the last 5 years, the winner of this game has been district champs.
Yes, absolutely. And so, it's...
And how important is that, Paul? Because
huge.
You get to host a home game.
Right. I mean, it does 2 things. One, it guarantees you have a spot in the playoffs.
Right.
And number 2, it gives you at least the first round a home game. Those are big. Those are big for your program. So there's a lot on the line here. And this is kind of what we, when you look at the schedule, this is what you had hoped would be the scenario. That when it comes down to playing, Treasure Coast, that number 1, your team, the Vero Beach Fighting Indians, are in the running for the district title. They are. Now your last hurdle here is Treasure Coast, and it's put all your attention on the Titans.
I guarantee you, homecoming's behind them. That's behind. Right now, they spent Monday afternoon working on the mistakes. Second half of practice then will be focused toward the district game of the year. Right now. That's what I call it. Every time you play Treasure Coast, and you that's great. I like it being the last district game. I like it having all the marbles are out there.
I agree.
I like it. Everybody put your marbles in the both saying, let's go. This
is what the stories are made of.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly
when you
right.
start talking about, you remember this game or you remember that game, there always has to be something huge on the line. And here it is. District titles on the line, playoff spot, all of that, bragging rights, all of that is right here in this game on Saturday night. And so, and look, Gary, the fact that it's on a Saturday night instead of a Friday night obviously gives both teams
an extra day.
But for sure for Vero, because again, you're playing an offense that you don't typically see through the course of the season.
And you get to watch all these games that you can watch all you want to on it. It's so funny. Somebody says, well, when you scout a team, don't you get an opportunity to really learn? I said, well, sure you do. But, they're talking about Michigan going to having somebody go down to the game and write down every play. Well, they can do that on film.
Right.
They said, well, they're still in signals. Well, most coaches talk with a piece of paper in front of their mouth, and you don't know what the signal is. But let me just say this to you. Even if you knew the signal, okay, you knew the play, you still got to go out and stop it.
Correct.
You got to stop it.
Right.
I mean, if you can scout all you want to on Treasure Coast, and they can scout all they want to on Vero Beach, but you still got to go out and stop them.
Yeah.
And then that's what it takes, talent right there, is that you may call the right play, and you may have they blow a coverage, and you're going to get a big play, or you throw even in their coverage, you beat what they're throwing at you. And it's all about blocking up front. It comes down to two things: blocking and tackling.
That's it.
The fundamentals of the game. They have not changed in 150 years of football.
Right.
It's blocking and tackling.
That's that.
And if you can do those two things, you're going to have a shot at winning the game.
Watch out. Professor's going to start teaching here. Yeah, it's funny. I actually, just last week, I happened to catch Colin Cowherd, his show on Fox, and he had Brock Heward, who's one of their, Fox announcers.
Yes,
And Brock talked about, his days in the NFL. And he said he wouldn't name the person. He goes, but there was somebody in our organization. He's basically like the king of, sign stealing, more or less, and scouting and those kind of things. And he said, look, he goes, even with that, and he wouldn't name it. It wasn't a coach. It was somebody else in the organization. But he said, even with that, he says, at best in the game, he's like, you might get 2 or 3 opportunities in that, because you got to figure out in a few seconds what they're planning on running, get those signaled in, make sure your players are all on board in just a few seconds. So even if you know the signals, it doesn't guarantee that that's going to give you such a huge advantage through the course of the game.
Every team has 3 or 4 guys are on the sideline.
Right.
At UCF, former Vero Beach player, Joe Rahal is one of our student coaches.
Yeah.
He's a graduate, coach out there. He's one of the guys on the sideline in a different colored shirt than everybody is going through all these signals. There's 4 of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So go figure that one.
Yeah, and the coach may give you the color, or somebody may give you the color by a signal that you're going to go to.
Right.
And that signal will be quick, and you don't know which one he's going to, because you got to figure out who's giving the signal.
Right.
It could be 1, 2, 3, or 4 giving the signal. That's the play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody has to turn, and they look, and it's by design. And if you can figure all that out,
more
you're
power
Einstein.
to you. Yeah.
You're Einstein.
Then you get these, these big signs now that have all these multiple pictures on it. So
Yes, we did.
Right.
The UCF has that too. Has a group of guys standing behind putting up signs. So it's hilarious. I mean, trying to figure out how to do it,
Isn't it?
And the coaches and everything. But it's a very sophisticated game, and especially in the college and pro level.
Yeah.
Now with pro, the helmet, They talk with their sheet in front of their mouth, and they're telling the quarterback, "We're going to run red 36."
Well, the quarterback, and they also have one for the defense as well.
Yes.
And truthfully, I'm kind of surprised that the college level has not gotten to that yet.
I asked that question. Okay, in the NFL, and this is what the answer I got was that NFL's under a union contract with the helmet. So they have union representative.
Right.
So if one of the quarterbacks gets hit and that helmet or gets the mouth or the equipment that's inside the helmet, it happens to make injury on him because of a contact, they can't be sued. college is wanting to go to this. They're thinking about doing it in the bowl games this year. About having helmets made up.
Yeah.
Those helmets are expensive, and it gives you the quarterback, and they want to test it and all, but they've got to get a waiver or something signed, I guess, that they would not sue the company for doing it if something should happen to it.
Right.
It's safe, but there's always that if. You know what I mean? So they're talking about coming to it in college. Now, not every, it's very expensive. They say about $5,000 a helmet or more.
Okay.
And
but you're only talking about maybe
a few helmets.
Yeah,
just maybe three.
Maybe. Well, I mean, like what? Because every quarterback probably has to have one ready to go. Yeah. And then if you're doing it for the defense, you got to probably maybe have two or three as well, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So maybe 6 to 8.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like a lot for but it is for every
school. For some schools, it would be.
Yeah. So, but
they got NIL
it's the
money.
Waiver. I think the thing is the waiver of the quarterback being hurt. That's what I was told.
That sounds more probable.
And I'm just quoting others. That's not my opinion.
It's interesting. I never even thought about that, but that's an interesting point of view.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's coming down, just like we talked about NIL in high school.
High school, yeah.
It's supposedly Florida will be next year, and We'll see.
Yeah, not a fan of it. I got to tell you, and not at the high school level. I mean, I can stand it at the college level, even though I feel like it needs to be regulated a little bit more. But whatever.
You're going to probably see, Paul, and again, I'll get off the subject a little bit here because we're playing Treasure Coast on Saturday. But I will say this: a lot of your colleges. Collectives, collective groups that go out. They may get a kid that lives in California, and he wants to sign with Georgia.
Right.
They've already told him what they will give him if he comes to Georgia, but they want to move him over to a certain high school in Georgia, so that they can stay in communication with him like that.
Yeah.
So they may fly the whole family, and they may live in Atlanta, use that as an example or whatever.
So it's almost like the equivalent of baseball and having like your minor leagues and feeder programs to where like, okay, I know the Dodgers have all their facilities out in Arizona. So it's like, we'll keep those guys nearby. So if we got to call them up to LA, we got them on the spot.
And they get the kid ready to play. They get a chance to watch him.
Yeah.
He gets to come to certain practices, or he gets to come to certain games rather, and get a chance to be at more games, and so he doesn't, and they bring his fan. That is what I've heard is how the NIL may float down into high school too.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is that most high schools can't afford paying a kid $100,000 to come play at them.
No way.
They don't have that kind of money.
I mean, look, most schools are trying to figure out just how to get, fans in the stands right now.
Exactly right. So I don't know that it will ever be a really big deal in high school unless you get the NIL groups getting involved.
Yeah, true. All right, well, that's probably a much larger subject for another podcast down the road. But, let's not forget that for Vero Beach, a big game this week, Treasure Coast. Saturday night, by the way, it's very important that you remember this because if you're planning on attending the game, it's Saturday night, not Friday night. And at the same time, so kickoff is at 7 o'clock. Our coverage will begin at 6 p.m. with countdown to kickoff. So hope to see you there. There's going to be plenty of tickets available. Love to see everybody down there and support the boys. And let's get that district win. Let's get it this week. Sounds like a good plan. All right, Gary Parrish, Paul Tipton, Inside the Press Box. Thanks for joining us. As always, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us Inside the Press Box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.